When I describe this place to people who are into this kind of stuff, I don't know how to describe it to make them believe that I'm telling the truth, because sometimes it sounds like I'm lying when I describe the place, when I'm really telling the truth.
It's about the gear. It's about preservation and preserving these items that, otherwise would have been gone. I don't know if you can see it in the wall behind us is the mini Moog prototypes, model A, B, C, and D. I mean, that's literally the DNA of portable synthesis. I mean, that's where it started. Pretty much everything that came from all these rooms and all these came from that Model A sitting on the top shelf. That's the grandfather of it all. That's pretty special. We came across a guy in Canada called Dave Keane. And Dave Keane had a foundation called the Oddities Foundation, which had several of the items that we have. And Dave said to me, point blank, he goes, "Why don't you form a nonprofit?" And he says, "If you form a nonprofit, we'll get some of this stuff to you, because I'm trying to wind down Oddities. And by winding Oddities down, then I have to donate these items to an organization of like cause." And our attorney got it done in literally 9 weeks, and we had a 501c3 operating now as a public charity. Now, fact is, it's being run as a private foundation, 501c3, because nobody else has donated any money yet. I've been the sole supporter, but hopefully that changes soon. Michelle Moog sent me a message. "Can you call me? I need to talk to you." So I called her. It was the day after Thanksgiving. She goes, "The Moog Foundation has been put in charge of finding a new home for the Emerson Modular." And I guess it was right at the end of January she called and said that we were awarded, based off of our, not necessarily the money, but based off of how we would share and preserve and use the Emerson Modular with the public. Keith was a showman, and that was his showpiece. That's the truth of it. It's so iconic. And it's literally got to be the most iconic keyboard in the world. The mission of EMEAPP is to preserve and educate. And we've done seminars and demonstrations and little concerts. We actually bring these vintage pieces out and use them. Hopefully, as we go down the road, more folks will send us stuff. The Oberheim 8 voice, pretty hard to find today. Not impossible, but I mean, you can't even describe it. A Moog is one thing and an ARP is something, but this has a life all its own. It's got its own personality, and it really, when you dial it up, it's a lot of work to get it dialed in, but when it's dialed up, it's pretty tough to beat it.
Our early PPG monosynths, very early digital analog hybrids got very fat, kind of like their attempt at something along the lines of a Prodigy. And the PPG 1003, which is called its sonic carrier, we really do not know much about this other than it is rare as hen's teeth.
There's another one you can't find information on. Not much, anyway.
This is called a Gypsy. It's made by Dutron.
So everybody knows what this is. I mean, that's nothing unusual, but this happens to be a very good example of the Putney. But what's sitting next to it is very unusual.
It's a Starkey hearing lab. It's a machine for testing your hearing. But it has oscillators, it has filters, it has envelopes, kind of a semi-modular synth-like, so a lot of people have used these as synthesizers.
Or to have fun with.
Or to have fun with, or blow out their eardrums. One of my favorite pieces of nomenclature on here is this jack here called Bone Vibrator. This is called a Steelfon S900. Italian monosynth. Digital oscillators, analog filters. Actually, this is another one that has a Moog-style ladder filter, which is immensely fat. This is On the monosynth tip, this is one of my favorites.
I think the tube is super cool.
Really don't know much about this thing, who the guy or what the guy was thinking. We went onto the YouTubes, and there's very, very old black and white footage of Kraftwerk playing one of these and making all kinds of weird buzzing sounds.
I couldn't resist this. I saw this thing come up for sale. So if you played the accordion, you could stand in front of this thing and have your drum machine and your accompaniment, and you
your
could play
bass
the bass
pedals.
pedals. So it was like a
So you could play your own polkas. It's a Boompa Chinka box.
Boompa Chinka. Yeah.
And speaking of Boompa Chinka boxes, we have a lot over here. You know, the classic, the 808, 909, Lin LM1, the regular Lin drum, this Hohner Rhythm 80. The BMI Powerhouse is an interesting one because it uses 8-track tapes for the rhythm. Actually, they built these in Scotland.
So this crazy multicolored thing actually comes with the drums. It was an electronic drum kit similar to the
It's called the Alt Sound DS4.
Alt Sound DS4, and we have the whole stands with all the original drums. This little Buchla keyboard actually belonged to Suzanne
Ciani.
There's so many pictures of her with that. We also have the white case with some components in it that was part of her 200 system with the folding case.
And we're working on putting it back together.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's one of our goals, to try and, but Buchla, 200 modules aren't that, you don't just find them laying around.
This is very unusual.
Put it on our arm.
Yeah. This is called the Buchla Silicon Cello. Completely custom, one-off instrument. This is the only one in the world. Really, really weird, really, really cool.
Don Buchla's personal music easel. So it was called the Glass Easel. And I love the graphic with the easel weasel.
And the reason it's called the glass easel because this is actually plexiglass, so you can see the board underneath.
Yeah, makes it an interesting piece. So I got this from David Van Koevering, who had Bob Moog look at it, and they had decided that this was probably one of the earliest voltage-controlled attempts at making a synthesizer in existence. I've had it dated with some of the tubes and some of the other technology. I had some radio guys look at it, and they're calling it like 1930-ish. This Fairlight system we bought probably 10 years ago, and I actually got it from a fellow who said he dated Vivian Kubrick back in the day. And then we go through it, and we found that the discs are labeled Vivian Kubrick. And then we had Peter Welk from Australia come out. He was a tech for Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel, and,
right?
and he worked for Fairlight.
And he worked for Fairlight back in the day.
Kim Ryrie and Peter Vogel.
Right, and he took care of this for Vivian Kubrick, and he opened it up, and his initials were still inside of it, so it is the Vivian Kubrick machine. But what's interesting is the touch pens. I mean, you'd literally set the programs and draw the waveforms on the screen with the touch pen. These pens are very dear to find today. So this is like our I don't know if you want to call it a tribute or our testament to computer-controlled synthesists. Early 80s, late 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s, yep.
The heart of this are called the Combrios. Recently, we got those from Brian Keyu.
The one in black is called the ADS-200R. As far as I know, 2 of the ADS-200s were built. Only 1 of the ADS-200Rs were built. 64 oscillators, additive synthesis, 16-track polyphonic memory, 80,000 note sequencing capability, scoring capability. Insane for 1979, 1980. Along with some of the other pieces in our collection, these are absolutely some of the rarest pieces that we have.
So this is the Wavemaker. I didn't know much about this when we bought it, and we did a little bit of research, and Vincent could probably fill us in on what they found.
Not that much. It was these were built by 2 brothers working out of their garage here in the States. It certainly looks homemade, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. This is called an SMS, a Salamander Modular System, made in France. Again, not much that we know about it.
So this modular here, it actually belonged to Penn State University in State College, Pennsylvania. It came from their music department, referred to lovingly as the Penn State Modular. And we think it's so fitting that it's here in Philadelphia. What's really unusual is the ribbon controller. It's a very, very early ribbon.
By Moog.
And whenever you see these clear switches like this, you know you're 1968. So I got a call from my friend in England, Justin Harrison, and he says, I found something really unusual that I think you guys should have for the museum. He says there's this guy, Ludwig Rehberg, in Germany that has this EMS gear. It seems like there were only 3 of them made. And it's this synthy computer synthy. It has cassette tapes in it. I'm not sure what it does or what it did or just how it works.
You can just see how it boggles the mind what they were thinking. And this has got to be 73, 74.
Part of the deal was that he threw in these other components that are on the bottom.
One is a high-pass filter, one is a multi-function high-pass, low-pass filter. And to the right, there's a really, really odd piece called the EMS synthetical engine.
So what's really unique about this Synthy 100, it has the super rare vocoder 5000. 1 or 2 maybe were built like this. Yeah. 3, I don't know.
Most synthes have a blank spot there.
Yeah, and this one is actually super rare. You want to talk about the Polyfusion real fast?
Yeah, Polyfusion, yep. Polyfusion was a company formed by several people who broke off from the Moog company, based out of Buffalo. Probably the most famous user of the Polyfusion is Steve Percaro from Toto. We're awaiting for it to be serviced so we can safely turn it on and get it going. We lovingly refer to this as our ARP 5000. You know, there's a night and day difference between this and, say, a big Moog modular. This, it doesn't use patch cords, it uses a matrix switching system, which, presents its own learning curve, but that's part of the fun of being here and having all this kind of stuff available. You get to experience all these different philosophies of synthesis. This is probably the one I spend the most time on. This is the Roland System 700. This is their biggest, baddest, most complete studio synthesizer system. One of the most flexible sequencers that I've ever seen on any of these. Very, very easy to follow. Very, very intuitive. It's a monster. I don't really know what else to say about it, except I have a lot of fun with this guy.
There's nights when I'll be here, like Vincent will leave and everybody's left, and I'm here alone, and I got to lock up and set the alarms and work my way out. You turn the lights off behind you, and I get this feeling, because there's like so much mojo in this building. It's just a sensory thing. You can feel, I'm not going to call it a ghost, but you can feel that there's some power here